It was a long time ago, but not far from where I am sitting right now. I am working in a building that is only 3 blocks from the historic theater that showed Star Wars in 1977. The Rivoli Theater has sadly gone away to make way for a corporate office and a parking lot, but I wax nostalgic every time I pass by that corner. A little backstory. I was born into a very strict Baptist family. They've loosened up a bit now, where I was forbidden to watch this horrid movie entitled Star Wars. There had been an audio cassette making its way through the congregation that warned parents of the evils of this new space fantasy movie. This film was to chip away at the very heart of us youngsters, taking away our religion. It stated that the movie was about wizards and witchcraft, and that the director and actors must also be satanic if they are even taking part in this atrocity. So there you have it. I was strictly forbidden to see this movie. I was also not allowed to watch The Wizard of Oz, but that's a different story. Let's get on with the real one. I remember the day as though it were yesterday. I was outside playing with my best friend Troy. We were talking about how neat this new movie looked and wondered if we'd ever get to see it. I pretty much knew I never would. As the morning passed and lunchtime approached, Troy's dad came by to pick him up and surprise him. They were going to go see Star Wars. His dad yelled across to me, "Hey, you want to go?" My reply was a sad, "Oh, I don't have any money." I didn't want to tell him I couldn't go. "No problem, my treat," he yelled back. Well, I was going to have to tell him, "Well, I can't go because I'm not allowed to see it." My reply was not nearly as loud as the other shouts I had given. Troy and his dad came closer. "Really? You're not allowed to see it?" "Yep." "Well, where's your folks?" "Well, they're at work." "When will they be home?" They get home around 5:30. "Then you got no worries. Come with us. The show's at noon and we'll be back at 3:30. Your folks will never know." Wow. Could I actually do this? Could I actually directly disobey my folks and not get caught? This was going to be the first time I had ever intentionally done something that I was told not to do. I did it. We hopped in the car and drove to downtown Muncie. This was quite a risk as my mother worked at the public library directly across the street. I didn't care. My heart raced as we pulled into the parking lot of the theater. The anticipation was killing me. "What are you doing?" I thought. "We don't need popcorn or anything. We've got to get in there and sit down." And so we finally did. As we walked into the dimly lit theater, we looked around for our best vantage point. We found it. In the balcony, against the rails, sitting on the floor with our feet dangling over the edge. Perfection. The previews, yes, it was only previews then, no commercials, ran far too long. I could care less about any other movie that was coming, just the one I was there to see. The lights went darker still, and then, ba-dum-bum, 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 dun-da-da-da. The 20th Century Fox logo appeared on the screen. Then, the also-familiar words appeared on the screen. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. The screen goes black for those few fateful seconds, and then BAM! The introductory brass of the Star Wars theme nearly makes me jump over the guardrail as the yellow outlined letters finally appear, spelling out the title for our most awesome fantasy. Then the all-too-familiar plot setup scrolling off into the furthest reaches of space. I could hear nothing except the sounds of the movie. I could see nothing but the awe-inspiring images that were in front of me, and the ships hadn't even entered the screen yet. The large spacecraft flies into the scene, shooting at something behind it. Then we see it. The Star Destroyer goes on forever. What was once a large spaceship is now a tiny craft in comparison to this one. Oh my. The cut inside when we see the 2 droids, and 3PO is worried about what will become of them. The soldiers are looking up as they prepare to face anything that comes their way. The tension so thick that you could cut through it with a knife. I sat in disbelief as the larger ship comes to rest over the Tantive 4. Look at the size of that thing, I thought. Now the moment of truth. What was going to come through that door? What was going to happen? The white door begins to smoke as it is burned open. It blasts open. We all screech in unison. In come the stormtroopers. These guys didn't look cool. They looked super cool. and what followed completely took my breath away. What could possibly follow that would make the stormtrooper stand at attention? None other than the Dark Lord himself, Darth Vader, the primo bad guy. I was speechless. I was hooked. For the next hour and 50 minutes, I sat motionless. I couldn't believe all the things I was seeing. A beautiful princess gets captured but still stands up for herself. C-3PO and R2-D2 go on their own little adventure. The Jawas, Luke, the Sand People, Ben. This was too much to soak in. The introduction of Han and Chewbacca, it all blurred together. The confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader. I had been a small fan of the old swashbuckling movies, but never had I seen swordplay such as this. Okay, the workmanship wasn't the best, but those glowing blades hitting and flashing. I was so worked up that I shouted "No!" when Obi-Wan was cut down. I hadn't noticed that he had disappeared with a smile. I was so upset. How could such a great guy get killed? I believe I started to tear up a bit. This just wasn't possible. I was down. I was bummed. For about 2 minutes, until Han blasted out of the Death Star and the TIE fighters attacked. That brought me back. I cheered with every TIE fighter that exploded. Maybe not out loud, but inside, where it counts. When the final TIE was destroyed, I could breathe again. I honestly think I held my breath through the entire fight. Now it was time for the calm before the storm, as Rebel leaders look into the information stored in R2. When the verdict was read, I sat in disbelief. How in the world were they going to hit a tiny target like that and destroy this evil space station? I already knew I was going to be disappointed in the outcome of this movie. There was no way in the world they could do it. Now, keep in mind that I was not a moviegoer, so I had no way of knowing exactly what to expect. As the rebels take to their ships and the Empire is estimating time of arrival, my tunnel vision became even more focused. There was nothing else that existed outside of that movie screen. I watched in despair as rebel after rebel was blown from the sky, but cheered whenever they happened to land a shot that sent an explosion through the hallway. I was amazed that the rebels might actually pull this off. They were able to avoid the big cannons. They were going to do this. They were going to win. Then Vader decides to join the fight. I knew there was going to be trouble. I knew that he was going to win, and win is exactly what he did as soon as he joined the ranks of the fighter pilots. Of course, his TIE fighter was quite a bit cooler than the rest of them. I cringed as he took out this rebel or that rebel, but nothing got me as much as seeing the torpedoes get launched and only hitting the surface. To see your shots miss and then get killed. What a thing to be your last memory. Failure. As the trench run continued, and Luke was one of the 3 making the run, I was once again engaged in the possibility that they just might make it. Then here came Vader. Once again, he easily gets rid of those in his way. Biggs is blown up, and Wedge has to fly off. I was so angry when Vader told the pilots to let that one go. Then, the cutting back and forth. Luke, Vader, Luke, Vader, 30 seconds to position. Oh my God! 29, 28, 27. Trust your feelings, Luke. What was that? He was remembering Obi-Wan's voice. The Force is strong with this one. I lost R2! No! How could they kill off a droid? First Ben, and now R2? I couldn't blink. I was so in awe of what was happening. I was chewing my nails to a bloody pulp. I have you now. Oh no! Now Vader has Luke in his sights? The display of Luke's X-Wing being lined up in Vader's sights and locking in. This was not to be a fair ending. This was not going to be a movie that ends the way it should. This was going to be one of those movies where they trick you to teach you that life isn't fair.